Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. My name is Caroline Colas, and I'm the Senior Director of Health and Wellness at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan, and your host today on the Positive Psychology Hour, a program that we do in partnership with the Whole Being Institute. So today we're going to be talking about languishing into flourishing in 2022 with Sandy Campbell. Does the word languishing resonate with you? It's been described as a state of being in which one is not quite depressed, yet not flourishing either. When languishing, we lack coping mechanisms, can feel overwhelmed, and struggle with burnout. Negative emotions abound, and we run out of energy, motivation, and the resources to help ourselves. We all possess the potential to languish in challenging situations like this historic pandemic. Yet research shows that resilience is less about facing difficult circumstances and more about how we respond to it. So today, we're going to review how we may have fallen into a languishing state individually and collectively over the past 2 years, and how we can work towards flourishing by uncovering our unique strengths and values. We can learn how to flow, create more meaning and happiness in life by moving forward with purpose and prioritizing self-care. And our amazing speaker today is Sandy Campbell. After 10 years with a major pharmaceutical company, she decided to stop working in the corporate world and start improving it instead. She's a positive psychology coach, and she has a master's degree in counseling from Villanova University, as well as degrees and certifications in integrative nutrition, yoga, and applied psychology. And she works closely with the Whole Being Institute and is a teaching assistant for Michelle Quaid's certificate in creating well-being. You can learn more about her. We'll put her link in the chat. Welcome to the call, Sandy.
Thank you so much, Caroline. It's so wonderful to be here today with all of you and with you, Caroline. I wanted to start by asking everyone, does the word languishing actually resonate with you? Does languishing resonate with you? How about the word meh? Or if I'd say to Caroline, Caroline, how are you feeling today? And she might go, hanging in there, doing okay. I wonder if any of those descriptions are descriptions that describe you. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Bear with me. Can you see this? You in good shape? Wonderful.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Thanks, Caroline. So the word meh is a word that Adam Grant talked about when describing this very relevant and current term of languishing. Adam Grant is a positive psychology coach and professor at Wharton. And he, in April of 2021, wrote an article for the New York Times where he described languishing as possibly the word for 2021. He described languishing as a sense of stagnation and emptiness. It feels like you're living life in grayscale, not in color. Maybe you're looking through a foggy windshield. It just feels like you're lacking motivation, you're lacking drive, you're lacking meaning and purpose. It's just, you feel kind of meh, right? So he wrote this article and it just exploded. I mean, I started blogging on this article and I have never had such a response of people saying, that's a word that describes me. I get it. Corporations were interested in having workshops done on this languishing term. It really, really was something that resonated. So it isn't burnout. It isn't depression. It's just that you're feeling somewhat joyless and you're not connected. So this article hits, and social media, everyone kind of jumps on board. Everyone from royalty to, Anderson Cooper and all of these different commentators are saying, yes, this makes sense. I feel like we are languishing. So I'd like to engage you right now. I don't know, Caroline, am I pinned as the speaker? Can you see me on the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
We can.
Okay, good. I don't see myself, which is why I asked. So what I'd like to do is engage you right now, because I'm going to engage you all throughout our presentation. This is going to end up being about you. But I'd like to start by asking you to take out a piece of paper There we go. I see me now. So take out a piece of paper and we're going to talk about languishing in this kind of terms. So I'd like you to draw just an x-axis here, just a line. Off to the left, I'd like you to write a -10. Off to the other side, I'd like you to put a +10 and a 0 in the middle. So when we think about languishing, it's this state between -10 and 0, where we may be experiencing mental illness, full-on depression, anxiety. So we've got a continuum from -10 to 0. 0 is languishing. From 0 to 10, we have flourishing and thriving, where you're experiencing joy, connection, meaning. Your relationships are thriving. So +10 is here at the other side. So I want you to find on this scale where you are right now. Where do you find yourself on this scale right now? And I'd love, and maybe Caroline, you can help me, type in the chat where you find yourself right now. Where do you find yourself on the languishing scale?
So we have, gosh, a -1, a 7, a 1, a +5, a +4, a 3, right in the middle, changes every day, a 9, +9, a 5, +5, +7, 0.
Yeah. So kind of all over the place. I'd like you to think about also, you know, this article was written in April of 2021. Where would you have found yourself last year? You know, if you had to summarize last year, and you don't have to type that into the chat, but just see how you feel now versus last year. I hope you're feeling a little bit better, but maybe not. And I also wonder, how many of you read this article? How many of you were kind of lit up by this idea of languishing? And if you say yes, you're not alone. This article, believe it or not, was the #1 most read article the New York Times reported in all of 2021. So quite poignant. So Adam Grant, in his TED Talk, he talks about how we got from this state of anguish to languish. I'm going to see if I can just come off this for a second and talk to you. Okay. Can you see me okay? Okay. So let's put ourselves back into March in April of 2020. So many workers were repositioning their jobs to work out of the home. We had just learned that this new virus was, you know, kind of invading our country. We were fearing fear, we were feeling uncertainty. And at the same time, we were given this moment to pause. We were given a time to create. I never personally experienced anything like that before. I started organizing my 10,000 photos. People moved into action. There were closets cleaned out and garages cleaned out. Sherwin-Williams had their best month ever in April of 2020. People were taking on projects. We were taking advantage of this pause. So as time moves on, though, we were finding that, you know, we kind of thought this was going to end, but it just kind of continued. So the fear and the anxiety and, you know, we kind of moved into a bit of a routine. And I don't know about you, but I started to feel like Groundhog Day. I felt like, you remember this scene from Groundhog Day, Bill Murray, you know, his clock, every time it hits 6 o'clock, it plays, I've got you, babe, Sonny and Cher, every day, same thing. Eventually he just hits this alarm clock with his hammer. So we started to move into this routine where every day kind of looked the same. I remember I said to my kids, I thought things were going to come to a close so much earlier. I said to them, you know, what are you going to do during quarantine? So when you go back to school, and here I'm thinking 2 months from now, you're able to, you know, talk about what you did that was productive, but things just lingered on. We moved into more technology. Like I mentioned, where so many workers moved into the home. So now we're working at home by ourselves. We are getting our news from screens. We're now relating with people on screens, and we're playing now. You know, I don't know about you, but I don't know how many Netflix series I watched, you know, sometimes 5 or 6 in a row, you know, just like, oh, just kind of a, you know, victim to what was going on the screen. So more and more screen time, less and less interaction with people. And as we know from the Blue Zones research and many, many other studies, that relationships and connection are the #1 indicator of well-being. So here we slip and here we slide, and we fall into apathy. And we fall into this space where, we really don't care that we're apathetic. And what's really important about this information and the state of languishing is Corey Keyes, the sociologist who coined this phrase several years ago, said, if we stay in this state of languishing, it can be quite dangerous. One, because we don't ask for help. We're just kind of like blah, we're not real fun to be around. We don't even enjoy being with ourselves a lot of times, right? So there's that. We're not asking for help. Unlike if you're depressed or you're actively anxious, you may be looking for help. But also what happens is I believe it's 10 times more likely to find yourself falling into depression or active anxiety disorder if you don't address the languishing and see what you can do to move out of it. So we're going to talk about that soon. But before we do that, I want you to see a little clip of Adam Grant, the Wharton professor, a clip from CBS he's interviewed here. He's going to talk a little bit about languishing, and then he's going to talk about certain steps out of languishing, which we're going to further explore in this workshop. So here's Adam Grant.
Naming is a first step, Elaine, because in a lot of cases, it sort of lurks in the shadows, right? You don't notice that your delight is dwindling a little bit. You don't notice that your drive is fading. And when you can't name your emotions, it's pretty hard to figure out what's causing them and how to change them. So I think saying, that ongoing sense of meh, that indifference to your indifference, okay, maybe I'm languishing right now.
Exactly.
Well, if languishing is stagnation, what we ultimately need is progress. For a lot of people, the pandemic was a big loss. And one of the ways that we begin to escape this sense of languishing is to find small wins, to just achieve even a miniature goal, right? A little bit of progress, a bit of momentum can give us a sense of efficacy, of competence, and also something to be excited about tomorrow. And there's evidence that at work, for example, that the single strongest predictor of your engagement and your happiness is just that your sense that you're making progress, right? That you're not standing still. So any goal you achieve, any task you can move forward on is probably a good place to start.
So you discuss a concept called flow in your article. What is flow, Adam, and how can it help people who may be languishing right now?
Flow is that magical experience where you become so immersed in a task that you lose track of time, of where you are, even sometimes of who you are, right? It happens when you disappear into a great novel. It happens when you're completely lost in a riveting movie. A lot of people experience it while driving or while playing sports when they get totally absorbed in the activity. And the great thing about that sense of absorption is you don't really notice your own emotions, right? You're sort of one with the challenge or one with the goal. And what stands in the way of flow for a lot of us is being constantly interrupted, right? If you have fragmented attention, you can't really get focused and absorbed. So I think we need blocks of time where we can concentrate, interruption free, which for a lot of us has been easier said than done the past year.
Okay. So Adam Grant is talking about
This is a first step.
Flow as a way out of languishing. He talks about flow. He talks about minimizing distractions. And he also talks about small wins, small little mini goals. So those are the three things we're going to talk about today. So we're going to move out of languishing by looking at the state of flow. So the state of flow has been defined by Hungarian psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He actually just passed this last fall. He coined this term flow because he was Hungarian, living in Europe in between World War I and World War II. He experienced people who were finding meaning and purpose in life, even though these horrors of war were happening all around them, but they were still actively engaged. They were still kind of living their best life. And he was really intrigued by what it was these people were doing. He actually attended a seminar by well-known psychologist Carl Jung, and he was completely inspired. He's like, I want to find out what these people do in order to find this meaning and purpose and happiness. Moved to the United States, researched and coined this term flow. It's this term that defines a space where nothing else matters. Time is distorted. You lose your sense of self. Things just kind of happen naturally. You're relaxed with a clear mind in the moment. I honestly experience flow sometimes when I'm meditating. Also, I experience flow when I'm able to have the opportunity to create these workshops for all of you and to present for you. I very much feel this feeling of flow. So Dr. Csikszentmihalyi, he created this graph here that kind of shows you what we would be looking at in a state of flow. So you'll see the X and the Y axes when you're feeling high challenge and also your abilities are meeting the challenges. I don't know if someone could mute, please. I'd appreciate it. I can hear some feedback. So if you're feeling high challenges and high abilities, you'll see the top right is flow. So you're experiencing these emotions that are focused and happy and centered and relaxed. So presenting this for you, I'm feeling like the challenge is high, but I feel like I can, come up with some engaging material for all of you, right? So high and high. Now, if Caroline had said to me, Sandy, 2 hours ago, I want you to give your presentation on trigonometry. Can you switch that around and do Okay, so all of a sudden the challenge level would have been really high for me and my ability would have been extremely low. So you can see now I'd be in the bottom left, depressed, sad, anxious, like, oh no, I can't pull this through. So these flow states are when we're feeling challenged and our abilities are high. A tennis player may feel flow when they are competing against an equal partner or a partner who's pushing them just a little bit further as well. An artist experiences flow when, creating something new and pushing beyond the boundaries of what they've done before. Musicians experience flow. You can experience flow by getting immersed in a wonderful book or writing. There's lots of ways that people can experience flow. So here are people experiencing flow. Country line dancing, you're in a place where you're having to pay close attention to the dance steps. You're with other people, so you're fully engaged in your experience there. You're physically moving your body. We have some musicians here who are, creating their in tune with each other. They're fully engaged in their activity. We have a painter. We have people on the bottom left who are just enjoying being with each other, engaged in conversation. And we have a mountain biker there in the bottom. So these are different ways that we can experience flow. There's a famous clip that I was going to show to you, but I decided not to in the interest of time, of Michael Jordan, that when Phil Jackson called a timeout, back when he was playing, he emerged from that timeout in this space where all he saw was the net, and it was just basket after basket that he hit, and it was just like the man was on fire. And he looked at the camera at one point and he just went like this, like, I don't know what's going on. It was like his body was taken over and he was just one with the experience. It gives me goosebumps. It's really cool clip. But at any rate, that's an example of flow. So what we're going to do when we talk about how to engage more flow, which is how to engage more joy and happiness and meaning and purpose in our lives, is we're going to think about this analogy, these two knobs. So on the left, we're going to pretend that we're turning down languishing and meh and boredom and apathy, disconnection, sadness. And how we're going to do that is, as Dan Tomasulo pointed out in one of his wonderful webinars for the Whole Being Institute, we're going to turn up the thriving, the flourishing, happiness, meaning, purpose, connection, laughter, curiosity, creativity. So we're gonna, in order to kind of squelch the one knob, we're gonna turn up the other knob, if that makes sense. Okay, so back to what Adam Grant said in his clip. Finding flow involves discovering where skill level and challenge meets. And that's, Dr. Csikszentmihalyi's work, where the skill level and challenge meets. We're going to reduce distractions and we're going to capitalize on small wins. So this is where we get to have some fun, and I'm going to engage you. We're going to bring in the SPIRE model, which you're all very familiar with. The SPIRE model is the Whole Being Institute's mind, body, spirit picture, where all the different ways of well-being kind of come together in a beautiful way that, help us to achieve greater flourishing. So what we're going to do is do an exercise where I'm going to outline each letter and different activities that you might find under each letter that would bring about flow for you. Because of course, this is a very, very personal thing. What brings about flow for Michael Jordan is not going to be what brings about flow for me. So I'm going to go through each letter, give you some examples, and I want you to also think about how you might find flow in that letter. Now, keep in mind that this is so fluid. So often these different activities will fall into different categories. You know, it may primarily be a physical activity, but you might also find a spiritual aspect or a relational aspect. So we're going to be kind of fluid with this, but this is just a way for us to figure out how we can find more flow or more meaning and purpose. So I'd like you to pull out your paper and pen again and write flow on the top. And then down the side, let's put out all the letters for SPIRE. All the letters for SPIRE. Okay, are we ready? Okay, let's move into S for spiritual. So this is leading a meaningful life and mindfully savoring the present. If we're engaging in spiritual flow exercises, we may be actively in a gratitude practice. We may be actively meditating or in prayer. We may be practicing yoga. There's even a branch of yoga that's called flow. We might join a group that helps us expand upon an area of interest or take us a little bit further. Spending time in nature very much is a space that inspires flow. We can journal, we can read inspirational books to deepen our knowledge, or we can volunteer and help others. So just take a moment and next to the S, write down how you practice flow in the spiritual realm. You can think about times in the past. That's always helpful to practice appreciative inquiry and look into the past and think about, when did I experience flow in the past? It always helps us in the future to think about what we want to do. Here's a picture of me doing yoga. Once again, very, very flowy activity. And then also I'm in nature as well. And I love the beach. I love the water. So I'm hitting on several aspects here for S for spiritual, as you can see. We've got physical, we've got S for spiritual. And I just came off of a yoga class with some people that I really enjoy. So relational as well. But so write down S, how you find flow in the spiritual realm. Okay, next. So physical, caring for the body and tapping into mind-body connection. So you may experience physical flow by preparing wonderful meals, being creative with your cooking, with different ingredients, different kinds of ethnic foods. You may engage in regular exercise or movement, strength building, cardio, yoga, Pilates, high intensity workouts. I definitely find flow in those kind of physical activities. Dancing, biking, skiing, tennis. Those are definitely flow-inducing activities. Walking 10,000 steps a day, or trying to, make sure that you're actively walking. My dad walks on the beach nearly every day, even more than 10,000 steps. And he will say he works through some of his biggest challenges in his life by walking. He feels like that is his meditative flow-like experience. So how do you find flow? Here's an example of something that I did last year that was completely out of my comfort zone. I'm not a good biker, never been a strong biker, but at the encouragement of some friends, my dad and my daughters, we all decided that we would do this 15-mile, bike tour through the town. And it was so fun because it was a new, novel experience. So oftentimes, flow experiences are new and novel, or we're pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone, raising our curiosity. We're with other people. Here I am doing something physical with my family. It was really fun. Like, I just felt like completely on cloud nine after I'd done something like this. So here we are with P for physical. So I for intellectual. This is when we're really raising our curiosity. Once again, novel experiences, something new. The brain loves new. So we're going to let our curiosity lead. We're going to participate in hobbies, maybe art or music or sports, antiquing, photo organizing, puzzles, chess. Chess masters very often are cited as people who get into flow. And once again, you need to be working with someone at your same level, or even maybe they're just a tiny bit higher than you to get that challenge level to where it needs to be. Books, classes, joining learning groups. That's very important. Maybe you engage in podcasts. Maybe you teach others. Maybe you're very involved in your community, or you travel and explore new places. So here's one of my favorite examples that I'm going to give you during our time together. This is my friend and client, Ginny. Ginny's off to the left, And how she has engaged in her I intellectual is by engaging in her goal that she had, which was become a plein air painter. So Ginny joined a class of mine where we took a look at kind of a longer term goal. What did we want to do and how are we going to get there? What was this goal? What did it look like? And Ginny just blew our minds, because what she ended up doing was, at the end, she says, guys, I've got a surprise for you. Here's what I've done. She took her hobby and her interest to a new level, and she had the courage to open up an art space. She joined an existing artist group, and she participated in an art show, and we were just blown away. She'd set this goal. She decided she wanted to move more into curiosity in the novel, and here she did this for I. I'm going to ask Ginny in about 10 minutes to come on camera and talk a little bit about her process, because we're going to talk about goal setting in a bit, but this is Ginny. We're going to swing back to Ginny. Okay, so R for relational. So you've written down your I. Going back to I for intellectual, write down things that you do that are new and different, and encourage your I. We're moving on to relational. So relational, of course, is our connection with ourselves and with others. We can practice strong relational flow by cultivating strong relationships with our partners, children, parents, friends, coworkers, participating in activities together, that we bring about, that we put in place on purpose. Practicing deep listening and giving our full attention, and being authentic and honest. Those are ways that we can move more fully into relational. So I'm going to show you a picture of how I moved into relational very recently, back in December. Once again, this was hitting many aspects of Aspire, but here I am on a wonderful excursion that was designed by Lindsay Gibson, who's from my town in Pittsburgh. And she designed the Pittsburgh Women's Adventure Club. And she has all these monthly activities that completely engage relationships, as well as, the I for intellectual, with raising our curiosity and doing new things, as well as physical, because we're, hiking. So here I am with my new friends. Back in December, I did a hike where we had headlamps, and this is on the top of Mount Washington in Pittsburgh. We went up into the hills and we had these headlamps on, then we came back down, we walked through the city, we saw the lights, we learned some new things about the city. And this was something that I participated in. I sought it out and participated. So we're going to try something new here. I'm going to stop my share, and I'm going to see if Lindsay can come on camera here for a moment or two and just tell us a little bit about how her business and her commitment to this process brings about greater flow for her clients. There's Lindsay. Thanks, Lindsay.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And hi, everybody. My name is Lindsay, and I live here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with Sandy. I moved here from Anchorage, Alaska, where my family and I lived for about 7 years. And they were truly life-changing years. They'll probably be the best 7 years of my life. I was able to experience the amazing health and wellness benefits of spending time nearly every day. And when I moved to Pittsburgh, I wanted to share those feelings and that goodness with the women here. So I started a group called the Women's Adventure Club of Western Pennsylvania, and we go outside a couple times a week. And I'm able to witness the benefits, of women tapping into the benefits of nature. One of my missions is to help women go outside their comfort zone by trying new things. So we've gone whitewater rafting down some pretty sizable rapids. We've climbed rock walls and shot at clay targets with shotguns, all new things. And I can see that it gives women this sense of, I can do it, the sense of accomplishment and renewed strength. And I think that it can be a catalyst. If I can tell this new story about who I am, what else am I capable of? So I really think that there are wonderful benefits of pushing yourself a little bit and trying something new, going outside your comfort zone, even if it feels, a little bit daunting at first. And the second part is just being in nature. I think when I hear Sandy talk about flow, we experience that every time we're outside, this immersion in nature where you're fully immersed, not only in your surroundings, but also the activity itself. Yesterday, we went Nordic skiing for about 3 hours, And we talked about how there's this sense of time expanding. You kind of lose your sense of self. It's tremendous peace. And so I can't recommend it enough. So as you're learning about flow today from Sandy, I encourage you to try to find that in nature, because I get to see it almost every day, and I would love that for you too. So thank you, Sandy.
Oh, thank you so much, Lindsay. You know, I had this idea several days ago. I thought I was just going to show you what Lindsay did. And I thought, oh my gosh, let me see if I can just bring her on camera, because you can see her passion. You can hear about what she's designing purposefully as a gift to, just so many people who are really, as Lindsay said, kind of you're redefining yourself in a lot of ways. You're writing a new story. You're engaging all those different areas of Spire, just all in one experience. And this is different than sitting on your couch and watching, even Ted Lasso, which I love, but it's a very different experience that we're co-creating together. And so it's important to try to find flow. And it's just great to join an existing group as well. I see there's a lot of people who are chatting. Caroline, do you want to bring anything up, or I'd probably rather you do that than me try to get into the chat and lose my. Do you see anything that's kind of worth bringing up here?
I just think that it's, Nikki said, now I wish I lived in Pittsburgh.
Right.
And my question was just answered, reason the activities for flow being done during the pandemic. There's a huge difference, obviously, from the US to Canada, where in Canada, our activities are in group sizes are limited due to closures, right? I think that that's happening all over, actually. And sounds like these experiences give women a sense of empowerment, said Deirdre. And that's pretty much what we have so far.
Yeah, well, thanks, Caroline. And of course, we're talking about, finding flow in whatever way that you can in the environment that you're in, where you live. It's going to look very different when you're in the Northeast right now versus if you're in Florida right now, or wherever you are. What you're able to engage in, if you're trekking through the snow, or if you're able to be on the beach, or if you're able to be with friends, or maybe you're still connecting over Zoom. There's different ways that you can find flow and find greater happiness, meaning, and purpose. So I'm going to come back to my slides. Thank you again, Lindsay. That was amazing. You can see how happy I was in that picture, right? So let's move on. So write down, once again, that was R for relationship, but you can see how we're just hitting so many areas of the Spire there. Moving right into emotional. And emotional is when, we're purposefully trying to reach towards resilience and positivity. And that was one way that I did that. You can also find emotional connection through maybe therapy, or maybe you have, I have accountability partners that I love to get together with about, my personal meditation practice, or maybe my work, conversations as well with people who mean something to you. Maybe you perform acts of service with your religious group or any other group that you're a member of, performing purposeful acts of kindness, and also practicing playfulness. I'll show you a picture here of my daughter, how she's 13. And here's what she did during COVID. She was using character strengths of creativity and also kindness by creating, she called it the Kindness Rock Project. So she had this box of rocks outside of the local ice cream store. And basically the idea was that she would create all these rocks, and then she would put just regular rocks in there. And she'd ask people to take a rock, take it home and paint it, bring it back if you want, or if you just want to take a rock and it speaks to you, take it. And she worked on this, honestly, like it was her full-time job. She would create these rocks in the basement. She would, Google, little sayings and whatever, and just create these works of art. They really were. She'd put them in the box, and then she'd bike back the next day and see if anybody had taken them. And her hope was that people would take the rocks home too, and they would create themselves to, find some greater creativity. But this is an example of just kind of putting something in place actively. It gave her a ton of meaning and purpose. I mean, like I said, she did this like it was her full-time job. So this was about you. This was about you finding where you can find flow in different aspects of your life. So hopefully you've written down some different ways that you can find flow, and that you do find flow, that you have found flow. And what we're going to do is take a look at this sheet again. And I want you to circle kind of your low-hanging fruit. What's an activity that you can do right now or this week that would help you to bring about more flow? Can you think, a couple circles around some things that you can look further into, expand into something new that might have come up that seemed kind of interesting to you? Caroline, I wanted you to also talk a little bit about Nia. Nia is really, it's a dance type of yoga dance that Caroline teaches for the JCC, and it's very flow inducing. Do you want to say a word or two about?
Sure.
About that?
The nice part about Nia, for me anyway, and I'll add myself here as, and Sandy's experienced it, is that we're learning choreography as we go, right? So there's a challenge there, but there's only 3 moves per song. So it's a challenge, but it's doable. And then we engage in relationship with the people in the class, with the music, and then all emotions are encouraged. So for me, it hits, of course, for me, dancing is all about prayer. So it hits spiritual, it hits intellectual, because I'm curious and I'm challenging. It's physical, it's relational, and it's emotional. And I find that it uses all of me. And when I'm in that flow state, I feel connected. And that's, to me, what you're saying flow is about. There's this connection. I feel connected to something that's greater than myself, and also to myself at the same time.
Oh, how wonderful. What a wonderful description of Nia and just flow in general, a greater connection with yourself and a greater connection with those around you. Thanks, Caroline. That's just a wonderful description. And then I wonder if we might have some people, I see some people chatting. Can you tell us a little bit about some of your low-hanging fruit, how you might find more flow? I hear Amy says, I'm reading the chat. I agree. Nia is positively life-changing for the good. Wonderful, wonderful. And would anyone else like to type in the chat?
We had someone comment about Zentangle and some other hobbies. And so I thought that was interesting. And that's a course we have at the JCC, which is drawing. I don't know if you've ever done it, Sandy, but you do it, you make one line at a time, and it literally looks like a puzzle. You don't know what it's going to look like at the end. They never show you at the end. And there's gratitude involved in it. Let your yoga dance, Elaine says, trying to practice gratitude every day. But so with Zentangle, everybody, imagine that you start to draw one line, and then you look at it and it looks like this beautiful work of art, and you're like, how did I do that? So I encourage everybody to give that a go. We have courses here, and I'll set something in the chat as well.
That sounds wonderful. And I would need something super simple, stupid. So if it has to do
really
with art.
simple, it's one line at a time.
Okay, good stuff. Well, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so coming back to our slides here. So hopefully you have some low-hanging fruit, some ways that you're inspired to think about how you're going to move more into flow. Okay, we're also going to talk about when we're moving more into flow, what we need to do is a couple of other things. Adam Grant mentioned reduce our distractions, right? Whew, I've got this cell phone here, I've got this computer, I've got all these things. So often I waste so much time, right? So we're going to reduce distractions so that we're going to crowd out the distractions. We're going to bring in more flow, more life-giving experiences. So real simple, turn off, like my phone right now is on airplane mode, but I'll do that a lot. Otherwise, turn off your electronics, shut your door, put a little note on the door, tell your children and whomever, I'm creating right now. If it's something you're doing in your house, you've set your boundaries. If you're like me, you constantly have these things popping up in your head. Oh, I needed to schedule that dentist appointment. I needed to do this, do that. Write them down. Just, tell yourself, it's okay. I'll write down a list and I'll do that after I'm finished with this important flow-inducing activity. Set a timer. My friend Sandra Lane, who's an expert in organization, she always talks about how, if you're having a hard time getting started with something, like maybe I'm having a hard time, sitting down and writing this workshop for you, tell myself 20 minutes on, 5-minute break, and literally set a timer and stick to that schedule. I'm going to sit down for 20 minutes, then take a break as a reward. So if it's really important to you, make the space for it. And then finally, I'm finding it more and more important, and I'm moving more and more towards getting in that space by pausing for up to 5 minutes or so. doing some breathing exercises, doing a moment of meditation so that you can set the mental space for you to move into this important activity. So do some breathing exercises, maybe the 4x4x4. We're going to breathe in for 4. We're going to hold for 4. We're going to exhale for 4 and pause for 4. That's a real easy one. 4 square breathing. And just in a matter of minutes, you'll notice your body relaxes, your brain starts to come more online, that prefrontal cortex starts to engage, and you're able to really, be more fully present in what's going on. So we're going to reduce distractions. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to move towards small wins, move towards small goals. Sonia Lyubomirsky, positive psychologist, talks about when we're reaching towards goals. I mean, it's one of the main vehicles to find more happiness. Reaching towards goals makes us happier, plain and simple. So we're going to look at small wins. We're going to set small goals. Like Jenny did. She said, I'm going to, move more fully into this gift that I have of being an artist and creating. So she set small goals. Keep a flow journal. Maybe you keep a journal on, here's what I did today that was new and different. Here's what I did today that moved into my best self, which is moving into these activities that inspire flow. Stay connected to your why. Like, who do you want to become? Who do you want to be for the people around you? That's a real high level kind of, tune into that heart. Who do I want to be? I wanted to demonstrate, kindness. I want to demonstrate curiosity. I want to demonstrate courageousness. Maybe you say that for your children. So stay connected to your why. Do activities that are behind that why. Have an accountability partner. I have several accountability partners, some of them that are on this call right now, that we get together and we encourage each other. And when we fall off that horse, we get back on. We get back on and we keep doing what is important to us because that's who we are and that's what's important to us. We know that's our best self. And then we celebrate. We've done a good job. Give ourselves a high five. Give ourselves a hug. I'm glad I showed up for that yoga class, that Nia class today. I'm glad that, I wrote that blog today. I'm glad that I signed up for that hike with Lindsay. So we're going to celebrate small wins. And then we're going to expand our small wins to larger wins. Maybe you use the SMART goal method, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. We're going to make sure we're specific. We can measure it. We're really connected to what we can achieve. Can I achieve this? If we're going to come up with something and then meet next week, I want to make sure, like as a coach, that, you're going to, this is something that's doable. Let's not talk about something that's just not going to happen. Is it doable? Are you going to be able to start every day drinking, 24 ounces of water? We're going to set our goals for it. Are you going to be able to do it? Realistic, within reach, relevant to your life's purpose, and clearly defined by your timeline. So back to Jenny. I'm going to ask Jenny to come on in just a minute. I told you about this wonderful vision that she moved into and then she created. I wanted to show you here her goal map. Of course, she's an artist, so look at this beautiful goal map. Inspired by Linda Wallace's work on goal mapping, Jenny created this beautiful goal map and this wonderful path to how she was going to become a plein air painter. And I wanted to bring Jenny on camera right now. I'm going to stop my share and see if she can come on and just tell us a little bit about her process and why it's so important for her to move more fully into this goal. Hi, Jenny, I see you. Good job.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you just fine. Thank you for coming on today.
Well, thank you for having me. This goal setting process was really far more life-changing than I had ever envisioned. And I think part of it was that initially I looked at my authentic self and really tried to think about how I want to show up in the world. And I know myself to be a creative person. So early on, that was through architecture, raising the kids, it was through a bulletin board. And just a few years ago, I invested in oil painting. But this goal process was a matter of really writing down what I wanted, which can be like a truth serum, right? I had to admit to myself what was involved in becoming a plein air painter. I had dabbled in it and I'm like, I wanted to get better at it, but I was working out of my basement and trying to get the right light, and my artwork was not seeing the light of day or any public at all. And so in the goal process, I set out a destination and starting points and, my first big step, my next big step, and on through the formal process. But one of the things that was really cool was after I set this out, I feel like the universe just conspired to make it happen. And I was on social media and heard from this local gallery. We have a rental space in our gallery. I only heard it once. I sent a message. I went to see this space and I walked in and I literally said, I'm not ready for this, but I just came to see what's available. I looked at the space. I walked out the door. I said, I'll make my decision today. I came back and said, I just need to stand in the space because I will know if this is right for me. And immediately I'm like, this is it. This is so cool. And it was the biggest gift given to me. And I didn't even quite realize why at the time. Beautiful northern light. I was in the public eye. It has stretched me. It like provides for flow. It gives me a space free of distraction. There's challenge. Sometimes my ability meets the challenge edge and I watch myself walk out of the space because I need to get back to that where the two meet. I guess I just, the goal setting process was important because I had to be true to myself, but it also, I think, put the intention out there in the world. And the map that we created, I'll look back at it and celebrate. Even today when I look, I'm so excited to read my why and to feel that that's still true. And I don't know, Sandy, I cannot thank you enough. It's been a real gift to have this process and work with the small group that we did.
Oh, well, thank you, Jenny. What a wonderful synopsis of what you were able to accomplish. Like I said, Jenny just blew our minds when she said, look what I've done. Very humbly, she says, look what I've done. And we were just blown away. But I love how you said, however you want to look at it, but when you invest in a goal, when you say, here's what I want to do, here's how I want to show up, here's what's important to me, it's crazy how maybe you notice different things you didn't before. All of a sudden the universe kind of conspires, doesn't it? Things come into your awareness you wouldn't have noticed. Oh, there's this space that's open. Well, why not? You're feeling fearless because you're pulling on your character strengths. Jenny's character strengths are appreciation of beauty and excellence, creativity. She's moving more fully into that to find her flow. And I have so many goosebumps when I'm talking to you right now. It's just such a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful example of truly Jenny deciding that she's going to become her best self. I'm going to be my best self. And as Lindsay said, I'm rewriting a story. I'm building on this beautiful new story that is me. And this is who I am. This is what I'm moving into. And this is what life's all about. This is what flow is all about. Thank you, Jenny. Oh my goodness. I very, very grateful that you and Lindsay were so generous with your time and your bravery to come on camera and talk a little bit about your process. So wonderful goal mapping. We're going to celebrate our wins. So, and back to what Jenny said too, she said, sometimes, this is a frustrating experience sometimes when you're creating and you're doing big things, doing hard things. Sometimes Jenny would say the skill level and my challenge are not meeting. Like, this is too hard. But refocus, come back to it. She had some accountability partners on our end. And then I'm sure she has some artist friends who can give her more technical, advice. So she's pulling on her resources, her relationships, getting that skill level and the challenge level to meet so that she can succeed. We're reducing distractions. We're making time for what's important to us. We're celebrating small wins. Just a little review. So once again, here's what we're doing. We've got these two knobs and we're coming back to Dan Tomasulo and his work. We're going to turn down the languishing. We're going to turn down the sadness, the apathy, the disengagement, the sitting on the couch and doing things that are just being fed to us versus actively engaging. We're going to turn up the flourishing, the thriving, the joy, the happiness, the creativity, the curiosity, the appreciation, the gratitude. We're going to turn that all up by engaging in flow. So as we're moving towards flourishing and thriving in 2022, just think about this. I'm going to give you a moment or two in our remaining time to just kind of to journal. How do you feel when you're in flow? So I want you to think about what emotions you feel when you're in flow. So can you take just a moment and write down when you're doing something like what Jenny just described or what Lindsay just described, or whatever your idea of flow is, how do you feel? Connecting in with that heart energy and connecting in with those positive emotions, as Barbara Fredrickson says, is completely life-changing. It's just a path to happiness, isn't it? So connect in with those emotions. How do you feel? The next question is, in what activities do you find flow? So let's go back to that low-hanging fruit. What activities are we now inspired to pursue in a little bit more detail? How about anything new? Is there anything new you're curious about exploring? Something that's going to get you out of your comfort zone. Brain loves the novel. The brain loves for you to challenge it. And then we're going to get specific. How are we going to make time? You know, once again, we're going to have to fight for that time. We're going to have to minimize the distractions. We're going to have to set those goals. How can we do more of these activities in our busy lives? How can we make space for what is life-giving and wonderful? I'll give you another minute to do that because we have the time. Take a minute and look at these questions. And I want you to do a little mini goal setting session here. Okay, so I'll bring us all together. Would anyone like to unmute yourself and talk about any ideas or any insights you've had as you're kind of thinking about how you're going to find more flow in 2022?
I was surprised, Sandy, that I put the words connected, refreshed, renewed. I didn't expect that, but it makes sense to be in flow and to actually, I keep thinking, oh, I need to rest more or something like that, but I can actually find that by doing something that is in flow. And I'd forgotten that. So I don't know if anyone else has that.
It's a wonderful insight. And I often feel the same way too. You know, like resting is what I need. I need to rest, but we find this new energy when we're doing something different and when we're active. A little bit of both. Maybe it's the yin and yang too. Wonderful.
Esperanza said, start something new. And we have joy, relax, dance, nature, being with like-minded, cut down on HGTV, kindness, gratitude, self-compassion, care, and kindness. I think that was, I thought you were supposed to think in terms of dreaming rather than goal setting. Deirdre wanted to, can you talk about that, goal setting versus dreaming and finding the why? Deirdre, did you want to say something?
No, I thought you were asking me to explain my question.
Oh, yeah, either way. You're welcome.
Well, it's just that I recall a session last week where a very clear distinction was made on goal setting, engaging a negative aspect of your nervous system. And instead of using that kind of language that engages your nervous system negatively, using dreaming as opposed to goal setting, because it doesn't do the same thing to your body and your mental state. Goal setting, we do so often because we often fall so short of the goals that we set. So anyway, it's just that when we have these speakers and sometimes somebody says one thing and then somebody else is saying something that really doesn't seem to be aligned with what we heard already. So that's why I'm questioning that, or just asking for greater elucidation.
Sure. So that was actually in relationship to resolutions, setting intentions versus working with resolutions. And of course, goal setting, we want to have agency. If we look at hope, right, Sandy? Agency and advocacy is a very important part of that in terms of science. But when we get into the dream state, and Sandy's going to talk about this a little bit, I'm sure, if I give her a chance, and we get in touch with our why, it's like accessing different parts of our brain. Yeah. It puts us into a different state. So we're never going to say that like one thing is wrong or that, but it depends on what you're looking for, right? It's like if I were to say, Sandy, if I use the example of food, nuts are a good food, but not if I'm allergic to them, right?
Right.
So for some people, goal setting actually is a negative process, but others, that motivates them. And for some people, dreaming or setting intentions is more preferable. But the science behind it, we do better when we're prospecting, when we're looking towards the future, we're activating our hope. And which way you choose to do that, whether it's goal setting, resolutions, intentions, dreaming, is going to be a bit individual. Sandy, would you say that that's true?
I cannot say anything. I can't add to anything to give a better answer than that, Caroline. That's exactly true. There's no right path to this. You know, as Sonia Lyubomirsky will tell us, who's an expert in goal setting, you know, there's different ways that we can set goals. There's different ways that we can go about achieving happiness. Even today, what we're doing is we're looking at flow as an offshoot on how to kind of become a little bit more, you know, happy, or whatever the word is we want to use. I don't love the word happy, neither do positive psychology.
I was even thinking, Sandy, of Carol Dweck's work in, you know, growth mindset, right? That even when we look at these speakers that come on, right, just be careful, or just watch, just observe if you're like attached to one, it being a particular way, because what the science says to us is that it is going to be individual, right? And Sonia Lyubomirsky talks about that. And we want that growth mindset. And here's another important thing. And Sandy, I wonder if you could talk about this. I can't always rely on the thing that gave me flow last year or last week to be what's going to give me flow right now.
Absolutely, Caroline, because our skills, hopefully, let's go back to the tennis player. Hopefully our skills are going to increase, right? We're going to improve if we're just using that analogy. So you're going to need to play someone who's a little bit, you know, more advanced. So if we just stick with that, right? Or maybe all of a sudden you're not so interested in tennis anymore and you want to take a little offshoot and now you want to learn how to do, I don't know, you know, on a bike, or you want to, you know, do more dancing, or you just pivot and shifting. It's all about trying different things and seeing what it's all about you. It's all about what matters to you. What are you going to do? Right? Like, I don't care what it is.
I'm thinking of you on your bike and how you said, you know, like there was a little bit of nervousness. It sounds like, you know, a little trepidation to do that. And yet that's the other thing that science has shown us. To develop our confidence, we need a bit of a challenge. And I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, it was way out of my comfort zone.
Right? We need, it's not like, oh, let me make everything easy.
Yeah.
And when we're languishing, we might think, oh, well, maybe I need to take it easy. Maybe I need to rest. Well, actually, you might need a little bit of a challenge, right, Sandy?
Yes, you might need a little bit of a challenge. And that's when sometimes you need to listen to the people around you as well. Like these people were part of the workout class that I was a part of, and they were saying, do this, you can do it. You can do it. You know, you work out, you can do this. You know, no, I can't. No, I can't. Yes, you can. How long is it? How long is 15 miles? You know? So yeah, I mean, I was so proud of myself though. It was out of my comfort zone. I have scars on my knees, Caroline, from falling off of a bike like 5 years ago. So, you know, this is hard. So yeah, pushing yourself, trying something different. And thank you. It comes from, whether it's goal setting or ways to achieve more and greater well-being, it comes from different areas. It comes from what we want to do, what we're connected to, what we're going to invest in.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah. And I just want to thank Deirdre for really bringing that up and helping us clarify. And, you know, anybody else that wants to come off mute and share what their experiences, because it's important as we are in community that we talk about these things. Well, I thought it was this, or is it really that? It almost reminds me of, like, you know, when we polish ourselves, right? And we think, what's my understanding of that? How can I refine that a little bit better? Or wait a second, let me get clarity. And when we're doing things that are new, I think that's part of flow state too. I can know if it's too much of a challenge, I'm out of flow, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I've done it wrong. It just means like, oh, let me go back.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Let me go back and get that small win in there. So I get that little hit of dopamine so that I have the, what do I want to say? The impulse to go back and try that challenge again. Because over time, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice.
Absolutely. It's all about the practice, isn't it? It's all about the practice. And yes, thank you, Deirdre, for bringing that up as well. And actually, I'll just show you this last slide that I have, which I think is, moves back to dreaming, which is, what's your word for 2022? So we're dropping into that heart. We're dropping into dreaming when we're looking at a goal state. So think about what your word for 2022 is and how you're going to do things differently. I'm big on words for 2022. Write them on a rock, write them, and put them on your mirror. What are you moving more towards? Heart-centered emotion. Danielle Laporte's work on heart-centered emotion. So what's your word for 2022? So that is what I have for you today. If you have any questions, I'm always so happy to engage. You can write me a quick email or type in the chat your email if you would like to get my newsletter. I'm blogging about these kind of things, languishing and everything else that comes up just about once a month. So I appreciate your time today. And Caroline, thank you as always for inviting me on. And a big, big thank you to Ginny and Lindsay for sharing their wonderful experiences with us.
Well, Sandy, it is amazing to have you. Sandy was my TA for the Whole Being Institute Certificate in Positive Psychology course that I took. And I know some of you are in the course right now and some of you are graduates. And she's just, a stunning human and so much fun to be around. And it was great to work with her and learn about my strengths and how I could access them more. Everyone, you please feel free to come off mute, and thanks Sandy as we exit. It was just a stunning presentation as always, and so great to spend time with you. Let's see, how can I access the replay? If you signed up, everyone, you will get the replay automatically, so no need to worry about that. Phoebe Atkinson is on the call as well, as she popped on to say hello, and she is reminding me, and I'm just trying to find her text message of who is going to be here next week. Phoebe, if you happen to be here, you can pop on and just tell us, because let me just find that. Yeah, and first of all, it's stunning. We're going to plan the most amazing 2022 with all these incredible speakers. Ginny says, thank you very much for this presentation and the work you do in the world, Sandy. Elizabeth says, thank you so much. Wonderful as usual. Abby, wonderful ideas and multi-layered presentation. Many thanks to you for this, and have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you so much. This was excellent. Where can we get the replay? We will send it to you. Always wonderful. And Deirdre, thank you for understanding that my reason for asking these questions is clarity. That's how I stay in flow. Anybody else like that? I'm the same way. When I don't get clear, that interferes with my flow state. Yeah, I see Lisa. Hey, Lisa. Lisa nodding her head and saying that too. So we're all in this together, everybody. And we're designing a 2022 that we've never seen before. Looks like COVID's going to stay around. And we so appreciate that, Sandy, you taking the time to tell us that we need to look at whether we're languishing or not and see how we can get with those small wins, with finding our flow state, with doing what we love and tapping into our strengths, how we can get our resilience back in check. All right, everybody, have an amazing weekend, and we will see you next week. Mwah.
Thank you, Sandy.
Hi, Lisa.
Thanks, Judy. Hi, you guys. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
everyone. Hi, Jen. Hi, Jen.